Hello everybody and welcome into Tuesday Night Thunder live with race number 3 for season 4 and making our first stop at the only mile and a half that you will see on the schedule this season, but still races as a super speedway and now referred to as a super speedway. That's right, it's Atlanta Motor Speedway, called Hotlanta. But before we get any further into that, let's meet, of course, as always, our co-host tonight, Dawson Wise. Dawson, how you feeling here for tonight?
Feeling good. I love this track. Love these cars. It's a great combo. You really have to wheel these things. It's going to be a lot about tire management tonight. A lot about picking your spots, picking your battles. I cannot wait. I love this place.
Certainly excited for it. And as the drivers have gotten qualifying wrapped up, let's get down track side as they get ready to roll and see what your starting grid is looking like here tonight for race number 3. Matthew Baker for NBG Motorsports. He will take the pole. Of course, winner of race number 1 here for season 4. So already locked in, assuming he makes the rest of the races. Just looking for playing with house money rather at this point, and looking to see if he can capture a couple more wins before it's all said and done. Outside pole will go to PGR eSports owner Michael Triscaro. Behind him in third is going to be Andrew Navarro, followed by Jeff Merck on the outside in fourth. Ken McCullough Jr., the captain, back in 5th. Trevor Osranoff in 6th. Garrett Maines back in 7th. Jason Maines in 8th. Tony Cox 9th. And it's David Sheets rounding out your top 10.
Last week's winner, J.R. Miller for Team PGR, will start from 11th with Jared Haynes to his outside in 12th. It'll be David Drohan and Mark Von Dell on row number 7 with Danny Eschelman starting 15th, and Nash Brambilla to his outside in 16th. Row 9, Matt Lee in the 04, Logan York in the 02 for Blind Squirrel Racing. Rounding out the top 20, a pair of PGR teammates, Brock Westmoreland in the 4 and Mike Davenport in the 55.
Christopher McCullough will roll off 21st tonight. Tucker McClendon for Blind Squirrel Racing to his outside in 22nd. Stephen Harper back in 23rd with Jimmy Emos rounding out the field tonight. He will roll off 24th. Race info, again, it is race number 3 here on the season. We're back in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. 90 laps the distance tonight, as the track length here at Atlanta Motor Speedway a little bit shorter than we see at Daytona or Talladega, coming in at 1.5 miles in length. Weather outside 71 degrees, 39% humidity, overcast skies, winds at 2 miles an hour. Not going to be a factor, but again, 40% fuel, unlimited tires, no fast spare, which here is going to be a tricky thing to try to keep your car clean the entire way. So guys will have to be careful early. Fixed setups as always, and there is a stage break on lap number 30, or rather the end of lap number 30, which there will be extra points awarded for. Track temp starting tonight, 67 degrees. Here we go. Matthew Baker leads him to the Geico restart zone for the first time tonight. Green flag is in the air. We're racing at Atlanta.
Lap 1 led by Matthew Baker into 1. They get singled out. And this is kind of what I figured would happen. Not really hoped would happen, but kind of what I figured would happen. You see the smoke here off turn 2. Kenny McCullough, the 03, had some trouble on the start. Got off the banking, trying to go to the back, and spun it on the apron of turn number 2. Did not bring the caution out, but nonetheless, it spread the field out quite a bit here at the front. First one to move, no surprise, the mile-and-a-half veteran, Jeff Merck on the outside. He's looking for third on Garrett Maines.
Yeah, we'll wait till things get sorted out to go back and take a look at exactly what happened there to Ken McCullough Jr. now being scored a lap down. So whatever the case was, gotta wonder if that potentially brought his night to an end here. No, it looks like he is still out on track running, so thinking maybe he just went in. Again, no fast spare, but in fact, before we go any further, I think it's probably a good idea to take a look at this. This was, again, on lap 1. I know, Dawson, you just mentioned it here. This was at the back of the field. Saw a couple guys scramble, and I'm really not sure exactly what happened here for Ken. It looks like he missed the start, and then I think here as he's trying to get up to speed, maybe that was the trouble. You see him working his way to the pits as the field roars by, and he's going through the gears, and there is a transition there from the flat onto the banking. And then a little bit of another transition. He's hugging that seam. That's usually not the best idea, and sure enough, that's what loops the car around. He's got 2 tires just above that seam, 2 tires below, and so there's progressive banking right there, and as a result, gets the rear tires spinning and sends the 03 around. That's what cost him that, and as we talked about, he lost a lap as well. So definitely not the start to the race that Ken McCullough Jr. wanted, but it looks like he is back on the lead lap now, so We'll see if he can maybe get a caution here with that stage break and get back up to the front.
Yeah, and where the front is right now, I mean, it's getting hairy up here. Garrett Mange jumped up in front of Jeff Merck. Michael Triscaro wants a piece of this. So does Trevor Osmanoff. And all of a sudden, from single file back to 2 wide, 3 rows deep. And again, no surprise. We know how aggressive Michael Triscaro likes to be. We know how much Jeff Merck likes the mile and a half, especially in this car. And obviously, the Coke Series driver, Garrett Mange, they have raced here already once this season. No surprise to see him being aggressive early in the going as well. He does enjoy this racetrack. No surprise to see him aggressive early, but it's been all Matthew Baker and Andrew Navarro, and really no one's been able to get past him here so far. 2 wide now, 2 rows deep as Merck drops in line.
And we take a ride on board here with Matthew Baker, the driver out of Magnolia, Texas, and already starting to hear scrubbing from that right front tire, and it's going to be a trend that continues, of course, as the day goes on. Now, Dawson, interestingly enough, the Xfinity cars, the way they handle here versus the trucks, much different. The trucks, and even the Cup cars for that matter, tendency to get really loose as the run goes on. From what I remember, I know it's been a while since I've been in an Xfinity car here, these tend to get really tight as the run goes on. So, you know, Baker's leading here. He's got clean air. I think that helps the tire wear maybe a little bit, but if you're not the leader, you're further back. I think you maybe need to think about starting to save, because 90 laps is a pretty good ways to go, even 30 on a set of tires. And if you don't save, man, you're going to be struggling by the end of this run.
It's a characteristic of the car more than the track. These cars, really all intermediates, when you're trying to save tire, it's more you're trying to be able to rotate the middle of the corner. It's less that you're going to lose grip. And more, you know, you're not going to get that oversteer like you do in those other 2 cars when you start to cord the tires. In these, you get tight, the car starts to not want to rotate, starts to understeer through the center of the corner. And of course, when you're pretty much wide open here at a newly configured Atlanta like this, it's obviously going to want to go to the right a little bit more, and we see it on a lot of the mile and a half. So again, a tire management we're not really used to in super speedway racing, but it is a factor here tonight. And you see, I think everybody's gotten the memo, because now single file most of the way back to the lead group.
Well, we were talking about pre-race, you know, how some of the guys here, maybe not quite as big of a field as we're used to seeing. It certainly filled in just as we got ready to go racing here tonight. But, I mean, just as much as a lot of guys maybe don't like this track as much as, man, that was a big move right there from Jeff Merck. I think he actually caught Navarro sleeping just a little bit as Navarro was running up, just following Baker. And it seemed like Merck maybe lulled him to sleep and was able to get him to go high there, almost kind of forced him up. That was a good move there by Jeff Merck, but Navarro probably not going to be too happy with it. We'll see that later in the race. But, you know, on the opposite end of the spectrum from guys who don't like this track, Dawson, if you know how to drive these cars, this track, to me, opens up a lot of opportunity because, of course, you got to drive the car a little bit more than, say, when we're at Talladega or Daytona. So, you know, you don't have to do much, but even if you're able to just do a little bit of managing of the tires, stick with the leaders. I think you're going to be surprised, and pleasantly surprised at that, at how far up you find yourself by the end of this race.
Yeah, wouldn't be surprised at all as Navarro sees that move from Jeff Merck earlier, sees him, caught him sleeping, and now he's going to take him 3 wide. And see, what Navarro's doing here is going to be key late in a run, so we're going to see this throughout the race. The bottom line is very good until the tires start to age. As the tires start to age and you go through the corner, you want to pinch the guy down to the red line. He's going to have to lift. He's going to have to scrub off the gas because you can't rotate the center of the corner on old tires. That's what I was just talking about a minute ago. When the car wants to wash up, if you're getting pinched down like Navarro's doing to Jeff Merck right now, you're not going to be able to rotate the corner. You're going to have to back up. That guy's going to pick off a spot, which is what Navarro's trying to do now with 12 laps into a run. It's not going to work for him. Tires are quite a lot of trouble. In the back, it looked like David Cheats, a couple others. There were some problems about halfway back through the field.
Yeah, and they're all still scattering and trying to gather it back up here. Jimmy Emos in the 98, the 4 of Brock Westmoreland, Mike Davenport in the 55. Looks like everybody is able to gather it up. No caution, no further incident. And Brock Westmoreland drifting up. Mike Davenport, those are 2 of the PGR eSports teammates just in front of them. About the 26 here of Danny Eshelman. But the man who's been moving his way through the field so far has been Christopher McCullough, who actually said, I believe it was just a week ago, after some more bad luck, says, man, I think I'm about done with these, but he's giving it another go tonight. And tell you what, I think I'm rooting for him here, Dawson. Chris, he's got a lot of talent. We see it in just about any money race we go to, but we're looking to compare guys to Jeff Merck in terms of the bad luck category. Chris certainly right there neck and neck for that, so we'll see if he gets a little bit of change in that luck tonight. He's still got some positions that he's got to make up, but still a stage break to go here as we are almost halfway through stage number 1. And fuel, going to be an interesting question here, because one thing we know is that they've got 40% fuel. Now, how long that is, that's what we're a little bit more unsure about. If I had to guess, I know the Cup cars here can go about 64 to 70 laps, maybe take off, I'd say, I don't know, maybe 10 or so from the Xfinity, maybe not even that, about 5 40%. It's going to be pretty close, Dawson, that's for sure. But with all the single file action we're seeing, there's definitely guys who have had the chance to save probably at least a lap or two already, and maybe even a lap or two more before we get to the end of the stage.
Well, it's going to be awfully interesting, too, to see if they do have to make a green flag pit stop. I mean, this pit entry is easily more daunting than most of the tracks we go to on the Super Speedway schedule, probably all of them. I mean, just considering how fast it comes up, how aggressive it is to get off the banking and get down to pit speed, this is not like the NASCAR Cup Series, NASCAR Xfinity Series from February. We don't have the Turn 3 entrance to pit road where you have to get wore down the backstretch. These guys are going to come off Turn 4 at speed and have to get down to pit speed like it's a normal Super Speedway. So it'll be interesting to see on old tires how that process goes. If they do have to make a pit stop, got to be in the back of the minds. Some guys up front. I'll tell you what's in the back of the minds of some of the guys further back, and that's coming to the front. They are led to the front by NBG Motorsports entry Matt Lee.
I just saw David Drohan potentially with some trouble as, now he's rolling down the pits. I mean, I don't really see any damage on the 42 car. Good looking scheme for him tonight. But this is definitely seems a little bit early. I mean, we'll of course see if anybody else brings it down, but I'm definitely not thinking this was a scheduled stop here for the 42. Is coming into turn 3. This is where he's going to have some trouble. No, I mean, he dives below the apron. He's hard off the gas here. You see the fire out of the pipes, trying to get it wound up, and then in the process does a little bit of the same thing that happened to Ken McCullough Jr., where he splits that seam and it loops the car around, goes in the grass, is able to save it for the most part and get back rolling. Now, he did have some pretty significant damage there to the left rear. Not sure exactly where he got that from, Dawson, but I think that might explain why we saw him bring it down to the pit so early.
Yeah, absolutely. It could be a tough break to start the night for him. And obviously at a track like this, it's going to be awfully tough with, the racing we've seen so far, the way these guys are racing, it's going to be tough to get that track position back. So we'll see if he can get back from it. We'll see if he can recover. But for now, a tough break for him. Up front, it's starting to pick up. Business is picking up here at the front. Navarro's starting to make his way forward because Matt Lee, Chris McCullough, Jason Maines, David Sheets, a couple others are starting to make their way forward on lap 19. And again, we are now racy here at the front of the field.
Onboard ride with Trevor Osnoth, as you heard him have to bail out of the throttle there for Matt Lee. There's David Drohan in the 42 getting back up to speed. It seems like right now Trevor Osnoth car handling pretty good for him as this lead pack has tightened back up. Talked about the racing up front, but watching the packs out back that were almost trying to a degree regroup here with the leaders after a lot of separation for the first half and plus a couple more of this run. And it looks like they've done a pretty good job. Jimmy Emos, I think he is still tucked just to the back end of this lead draft. Stephen Harper as well with Mark Von Dell. Michael Triscaro, though, what happened here for the 34 car? He is way off the lead draft. This is another one of those drivers that's just looking to survive here the next 10 laps, get that caution, get caught back up with the field. Michael Triscaro is another one of the guys that we have carrying an onboard camera for us here tonight. I know we just got a view back of him, but don't see any damage on the 34 car, so I think he's okay. So not sure what happened there. We'll have to see how it turns out. Up front, though, Garrett Maines pushing all over the back bumper of Matthew Baker. Andrew Navarro finally going to find a dancing partner up top with Christopher McCullough. And they might start to make some ground here as they'll draw even with Jeff Murkoff at number 2.
Yeah, they're going to need a little bit more help, I think. 2 cars only going to get you so much. Even at a track like this, they're going to be able to gain some spots. In fact, they start to gain some ground now, but they are going to need probably one more car if they really want to roll that top lane. Although, they hang out there long enough. The tires are getting old now. We're into the range where, especially these guys up front, talking Baker, Merck, Maines, maybe Matt Lee, have just not really saved enough tire to probably be able to rotate the center of the corner with as low as Navarro and McCullough are running. And you can tell already it's paying dividends. Here comes Andrew Navarro in the 44. He waited, he bided his time, and he stuck to it. And now he's got some ground, and he's alongside Garrett Maines in 3.
Well, as much as we saw him poking to the outside during the run, I got to wonder if maybe that clean air was helping him save some tire, even though we thought he was just going for passing. Maybe knew something we didn't. Of course, one of the Road to Pro and now Contender Series drivers. You see the banner there on the front of the number 44 Toyota Supra. So Navarro, no stranger to how to get the job done at just about every track on the circuit that NASCAR would go to in real life, and proven that that experience is paying dividends here tonight, as you noted. But Matthew Baker, pure dominance is really all you can say so far from the start of this run. Has led just about every lap, and Garrett Maines really hasn't had much of a challenge as Navarro going to lay a big side draft on the door of the 1 off of turn number 4. Starts to get a run, but I'll tell you what, Dawson, this quad oval, we haven't seen any trouble tonight, but it certainly could be an issue later on. It's kind of interesting, it looks like a straightaway, but we know that you almost have to turn down for each corner of that quad oval before you get there, because these cars, of course, they slide up, and if you don't, it's a lot easier than you might think watching at home to get into that outside wall or maybe get into the car on your outside.
Especially when you're running 2 and potentially 3 wide, which we will see most likely later in the night. So right here, as you come through this first kink, that wall right by the start-finish line comes at you really quick. This one's actually the more dangerous one, the one going into turn number 1. It is really easy to bounce off that wall, to clip it with the right rear, almost to tail whip the outside wall just with the way you're turning the car. So nobody's had really any trouble yet, but again, we haven't been very racy yet so far, with the exception of the guys running up on the top lane. Later on, we get racy, you're going to see it become a problem, and you're seeing now, I think tires are starting to become a problem for those guys on the bottom. Jeff Merck is really out of shape. They're going to pit here on lap 25.
Yeah, I was just getting ready to say, we just had a group of guys pit. Looked like some of the Team PGR drivers and a couple others. Is boy, Maines and Baker almost with some contact there.
Around, and another car's around back there. It looks like the 27 of Stephen Harper both had trouble getting on pit road.
Mark Vondell in the grass gets it fired back up. There's a 27, as you just noted, of Stephen Harper. Don't see much damage, but this will cost them any chance at stage points right here, as Baker gets into his box cleanly. No issues there. Same thing for Jeff Merck. And so, yeah, Dawson, I'm not sure if it was... I mean, I don't think it was so much of a tire issue. I think it had to be fuel, even though the tires were hurting. You see not a lot of guys take tires right there. That's the 23 Nash Brambilla working his way out of the pits. Looks like he got caught for speeding. As you see, Matthew Baker is going to let the one of Garrett Maines sneak by on his outside. Now he'll get lined up in the draft. Here we go. More pit stops up front.
Chris McCullough missed pit road. He unfortunately is very slow here in 1 and 2, trying to get back up to speed. He missed the entry, and unfortunately he's not going to lose a ton of time coming off the pit lane. And Mike Davenport also elects not to pit right there, so he'll stay out under this another cycle. And the rest of the league group is in. Well, actually, they're off pit road. Andrew Navarro, great stop of the 44. This group is very separated off the pit lane.
Here comes Garrett Maines and Matthew Baker roaring down the front stretch, and I believe they'll be able to get by here and take the lead. As there you see Christopher McCullough going to make his pit stop now, trying to get it woed up. And for the first round of pit stops here, Dawson, not too bad. Everybody did a pretty good job getting woed down, and I don't think we had too many penalties assessed. Of course, did have a couple, and had a couple guys with trouble. First one was Stephen Harper. We're just going to go take a brief look at these here before the stage. And yeah, 27 just gets in there really hot, as does Mark Vondell. They both slide separately. And then Jimmy Emos here, he's going to have an issue himself trying to get onto the pits. The 98 looks like as he's working around, just skin gets caught on that seam, and on exit, loops the car around. He's able to hold on to it for the most part. Mark Vondell, as he was backing it up to get back rolling, had gotten back in the grass. And then Christopher McCullough, you talked about missing pit road. There's that there. He realized after full wheel lock left that it wasn't going to work. Bailed out, went an extra lap around it. Don't think it's going to affect him too bad here. Of course, did lose some spots. As meanwhile, back up front. Oh, Matt Lee is going to go around. Jason Maines gets involved. 2-car wreck, brings out a caution, and will end the stage early.
I was just getting ready to call it. I think we saw it at exactly the same time. I saw him get out of shape, and he ends up sideways. Tough break, but again, it goes back to us not seeing guys take tires right there. Guys decided to go fuel only, and man, it did not pay off for the 0-4. The gamble does not work.
Well, here we go. Jason Maines was running on his outside, and boy, there's some contact with these two a couple times to the corner. Watch this first here from the chopper view. And so as they get into the corner here, you see Jason Maines is running up on the back bumper here of Matt Lee. And Lee's okay. I think maybe he hits one of the bumps, or it's just he's tight, of course, as you mentioned, with the tires at this point, Dawson. And whatever the case was, you see the car slowly washing up the track. Jason is going to try to get a run to his outside, but actually hits him in the right side of the rear bumper. And you see that sends Lee down a little bit, and then sends it back up, gets into Maines, and at that point, just trying to catch it. Nothing doing. Maines gets into the outside wall. Overall, though, I don't see a lot of damage on either of those cars. Lee definitely didn't hit anything besides Jason Maines, so I think he's definitely okay. And whatever damage Maines has, looks like it should be pretty repairable, at least from the viewpoints we had right there.
Yeah, I would think so. Again, those guys got lucky to get out of there relatively unscathed, all things considered. I'm going to lose a bunch of track position, but again, I think you'd rather lose some track position and maybe miss out on some stage points than, junk your car, be out of the race with 60 laps to go. So all things considered, pretty lucky. Now up front, man, some serious flips of track position here. Perhaps guys that maybe took tires on the pit stop. That's what I'm thinking here on lap 30.
Yeah, certainly could be. We'll go look at that in just a moment as we take just a couple more views of that one there. I think maybe it was just a little bit of a mix of, like I said, maybe a small misjudgment by Jason Maines, but more importantly, probably wasn't expecting Matt Lee to get loose or get tight, if you will. and just kind of led to that 2-car incident. Boy, Jeff Merck, what a job he did there, ducking to the low side, the 60 with a big-time miss. David Drohan's able to duck low as well, as you're going to see a couple others driving the picture. Trevor Osnoff, he has to go around on the inside before these two got it sorted out, and we're able to get back rolling without any issues. And now that stage break, I believe, Dawson, that they crowned the stage winner at the time of the caution when they know that they're not going to be able to go back green, of course, before the stage is over. And so with that being the case, we'll go back here and try to see who your leader was at the time of caution. I believe it was, couldn't tell, was it Garrett Maines or Navarro? It was really close between the two. And if we look here, we're going to go to the onboard view first to link this up with when the caution actually came out. See green there, green there. Watching for that first flash. Nothing there. Watching for the flagman next up. I think the caution's out by this point. We're going to go a little bit further. See if we can see. This is Christopher McCullough. As don't see any caution lights just yet. There we go. Caution lights are on right there. So we'll back that up a little bit more and try to sync it up. Again, we'll pause right at the time of caution here. Right there. And if we go back here to Garrett Maines and Andrew Navarro, I guess I should say if we go forward here to Garrett Maines and Andrew Navarro, they were on the front stretch, and looks like Garrett Maines has the lead by about half a car length, so he should be declared as your stage winner. And now the battle for second was just about as close as it was off of 4 for first. Man, I can't tell with that one, Dawson. I think maybe it's Matthew Baker. If it is, though, man, it is just barely. What a close finish there for the stage break.
Yeah, really close finish because that happened right as Baker and Garrett were going by. Andrew Navarro, it was really close. They kind of timed it up almost, when that move started to happen. They wrecked behind them, so very close finish to stage one.
All right, here we go, getting ready for what's going to be the final stage. 60 laps the distance. Green flag back in the air at Atlanta. J.R. Miller, Brock Westmoreland, the two PGR eSports teammates will lead the field back to green. Mike Davenport in third. Tony Cox, the outside in fourth. So a little bit of opportunity, as you mentioned, some of that strategy play based off when that caution came out, Dawson. Tony Cox, first time leading the outside here tonight. We'll see what the driver out of Alexandria, Indiana can do. But he's got pretty heavy damage on the rear bumper. I don't think Maines is going to stick behind him here too long. Watch them to split 3 wide here by the time they get to the front stretch.
Wouldn't be surprised, but nothing doing yet. Now Tony Cox moves up, perhaps of his own volition there. He knows Garrett Maines, Matthew Baker on the move, and on the move they are. Goodness, not sure where they came from. They're shot out of a cannon here on turn number 4. Trouble almost. Danny Esselman's on the apron, but he gets it wound back up, and all of a sudden, man, that did not work for the PGR cars. New leader in 1 and 2 is Garrett Maines, and they went by him in a hurry.
Well, Danny Esselman's still trying to gather it up back here. Looks like he finally does, as the 42, the 03, and just about everybody, what is now the second group that's formed up, they need to get organized, and they need to do it quick, because they could be in danger here losing this lead draft. Tony Cox kind of acting as the bridge right now, if you will, but that may only last for so long. Now, again, track temp tonight, at least what it's currently sitting at for the moment, 88 degrees, so plenty of grip out there, not nearly as hot as we've seen some of the track temps at super speedways. You got to think that'll help a little bit with grip and fall off, Dawson, but we saw from stage number 1 there at the end with Matt Lee and Jason Maines that it's still an issue as, Jimmy Emos troubled further back, so the 98 almost went around. Looks like he's going to save it on the back straightaway. Christopher McCullough goes by. Nashper and Billa, by the way, he's in the pits here with pretty heavy damage. Not sure what happened here to the 23, but wonder if this was something with the same mix-up that happened between him and Danny Esserman and a couple others. We saw David Sheets come in. I think it was here. In fact, we're going to actually back this all the way up here to find out where the 23 sustained all this damage. You see it's on the front right, so it's certainly causing him quite a bit of trouble. He's been on the pits already for a couple laps here, just trying to get really any damage he could get fixed. There's David Sheets as well. And so as it sits there, the point is, wherever he got this damage, he got it a little whiles ago. I didn't think this was part of the Matt Lee ordeal. Now, I'm not sure really where it was, Dawson, but it was far enough back where we can't keep going farther back. So point is, Brambilla still working on repairs. Is up front. It's Andrew Navarro leading the way here at Atlanta. Not the first time he's been leading tonight, but first time that everybody's grouped together he's had a chance to lead. He's got a lot of contests, though, from Jeff Merck on the outside with Logan York in the 0-2.
And by now you can kind of tell the guys who either, A, were already comfortable coming into tonight. I think that'd be, the top 4 of Navarro, Maines, Baker, Merck, or the guys that have kind of taken a little bit but now have kind of settled in. And that's Logan York, that's J.R. Miller, Brock Westerland, Mike Davenport, a couple others. Now the field is very split up. Kenny McCullough is about a second back of the last car in this lead draft. Then from there, another 2 seconds back to Matt Lee in 11th. And then the field is really split up all of a sudden. Not a typical super speedway race tonight as Navarro works up the hill. Was that a lane switch or perhaps lost a grip of the 44? Unsure. Looked very interesting there in the middle of 3 and 4. But he gives Maines back to lead the line. He's going to lap David Sheets.
I'm not sure either, and honestly kind of interested to see how lane switching would work here. I know we see a lot when we go to Daytona and Talladega, but it's certainly a lot easier to do it there. You can slide the car up or down through the corners pretty much on command here. You got to be a lot more precise, a lot more careful with it, and you can't do it quite as quickly. So we'll see if guys maybe try to work on that here, get a little practice for if they need it at the end of the race. And I'm sure we might see a couple blocks, because one thing I've noticed tonight, Dawson, that we don't see too often at Atlanta is how well the outside line has been able to work at pretty much any portion of the run. We're used more to seeing kind of that outside be strong at the start, maybe even better than the inside, and then fade as the run goes on. But I think it's kind of a mixture of, again, the cooler track tempo, more importantly, the guys that you've got running that outside, they know what they're doing. Andrew Navarro, Jeff Merck making sure they keep it tight to the door of Garrett Maines, Matthew Baker, and Logan York, and by doing so, they prevent them from sliding up, able to keep just a little bit more momentum through the corner. And then, of course, they're guaranteed to carry more down the straight by rolling the top.
Yeah, absolutely. It works. And we saw it work on the last run. It's working so far on this one. Now, quick note, Matt Lee and Michael Triscaro. Kenny McCullough has driven his way back into this, but so has the 04 and so has the 34. They are chipping away little by little at this gap that they have with the lead group. They cut it from about 3.5 seconds to 2.4 in the last 2 to 3 laps. They are doing some really good work as the lead draft just kind of rides around the racetrack for a few laps. Those guys are doing really, really good work to try to drive back up, and they're going to have the draft here in a couple laps. 04 and the 34, not out of this one yet.
Yeah, they are now officially within a second and a half of Ken McCullough Jr., who has now arrived at the back of this lead draft. And you hear how much lifting Ken's having to do back there. That's really helping Lee and Triscaro, who, of course, are just about flat out besides the corners. So now that they've got it down to a second, you're right, Dawson. They did a fantastic job, and they're going to live to try to win this race here yet again, as now they're back with the lead group, and that will extend it all the way back now to 10 cars in total. Yeah, believe it or not, that's it with this lead pack. And then 11th on back, Trevor Ozernoth, all separated by kind of great margins to a degree. And in fact, 18th on back, a lap down or potentially out of this race. And when we look at the track map, Dawson, I mean, you would think that we're potentially at Bristol and Martinsville with the amount of spread we've got. But I think that's just a product of some of the chaos we've had happen that have not brought out cautions, of course, after that stage wrapped up. So up front, guys looking good. And so far, if you're in this lead pack, looks like you're going to have a good shot at the money by the end of this thing.
I would think so. You cut the lead pack down to 10 lead lap cars. I mean, 10 cars for 5 spots is pretty good odds if you're running here at the front of the field. Now, for the guys that are running full seasons, obviously a little bit more to that. Obviously you'd like to go to victory lane, lock your way in. Matthew Baker has done that already. J.R. Miller has done that already as well. So those guys, not as much to race for. These guys up here, the rest of these guys want to win their way in the playoffs. They want to get victory lane. None more so than Garrett Maines on the outside in the 1. And Andrew Navarro, the 44. So both those guys still being very aggressive, trying to lead laps, trying to stay up front, control the pace of this race and go to victory lane. And they're the only two right now willing to go up on the outside lane. Everybody else from Baker on back is single file along the red line.
I'm thinking Garrett would probably like to drop back down here if he gets clear. See if the one car does so. Sure enough, he will into turn number 3. I mean, when you only have one car Navarro on the outside, you know he's going to probably get hot eventually and doesn't want to keep pushing him. Oh, but Garrett with a big slide there off of turn number 4. Logan York, Jeff Merck. Another thing we haven't talked about yet is that double, I guess you could call it the double, not really double yellow, more so the double orange, double white, whatever you want to call it, line that paints the bottom of the racetrack that separates the apron from the racing surface. And same rules apply here as they would at Talladega or Daytona, where you cannot go under that line to advance your position. Now, I don't think it's too much of an issue on the backstretch. The bigger area to watch would be, of course, on the front stretch here. Dawson, it's so tempting as a driver because realistically it fans out probably another lane or 2 down there, and if you were allowed to, you're shortcutting the track greatly, and it can make you a lot of time, but can't go down there to advance your position. You will be penalized. So at the end of this race, watch for guys, even if they're 3 wide, to all try to keep it above that apron.
Yeah, would not be surprised to see those guys keep it up off the apron, trying to stay up and get as much grip as they can. Man, they're getting really racy up here. Logan York, why am I not surprised? Logan York's making it racy here at the front of the field. The 0-2 wants to go. He's gotten a lot more comfortable as the night's gone on. Started the back and actually is going to be the first one to try to go a lane higher. Does Navarro go with him? Yes, he does. Navarro goes third line. Contact at the front. They almost wreck. How in the world did they get away from a wreck right there? 3 wide and 1.
Wow, that was really close between Matthew Baker, Jeff Merck, and J.R. Miller. I don't know how Baker saved that. I mean, we saw earlier when Lee got out of shape, he had to work his way up the track. Somehow Baker was able to save it without working too high, but I'm thinking that maybe Matthew Baker not going to be too happy either now with Logan splitting him that early, probably saying, what the heck, man? I thought we were working together here to get to the front, but you can see that Baker was able to maintain track position from it, whereas Logan York lost a bunch of track position from it. But I do think at the end of the day, Dawson, it's good for these guys to be trying that kind of stuff now. You know, you don't want to wait till the end of the race to be trying 3 wide for the first time here tonight. So, you know, no harm, no foul, a couple of bumps and bangs. But at the end of the day, it is still Garrett Maines being scored as your leader. Matthew Baker in second, Jeff Merck up to third, and Navarro rolling the outside in fourth.
Yeah, and Logan York's big loser out of that one. Navarro jumped back down to the middle. Then they had the contact, and that drops York all the way to 7th. He was second. 8 laps to go, running on the inside line now. Again, suffered from that move. And another car that's coming back to the front. How about Jared Haynes in the 7th? 4th on the inside line. Has kind of benefited from this hard as these guys have been running up front. He said, I'm just going to ride back here. I'm going to save some tire. I'm going to get back in this battle. And boy, has he done that in a big way. The 7 on the inside line all of a sudden now has a look in the top 5 here in just a quick few moments.
And this is one of those drivers that maybe a lot of people will have as an underdog pick, but when you start putting together runs like the one he's having tonight, Mondell! He gets into Navarro after tagging the outside wall. Now David Sheets gets into Jared Haynes, who we were just talking about. No caution. Oh my goodness, that is going to ruin the run for Andrew Navarro. Mark Mondell torn up as well. We talked about the quad oval, Dawson, and it finally got one of them, and boy, what an unfortunate wrong place, wrong time scenario for Andrew Navarro. Heavy damage to the front of the 44. I mean, this is going to end his night.
Yeah, it's, a tough break for what I thought was going to be the best car, really, of these leaders in terms of being able to move around, find grip other places, and be able to, run lines that other guys don't, be aggressive, go up to the middle, and be able to also maintain his tires. I thought he'd run the best race of anybody. And again, that quad oval, it'll jump up to get you. It was right where I talked about was the toughest place on the front stretch. And it's when you leave that second part of the quad oval and go down towards turn 1. It's really where it's dangerous. It can be a little bit quick to come up on you, and it comes up on Mark Mondell right there, and that's one you want to have back if you're the 59.
Yeah, I think Mondell, of course, a lapper was just trying to stay out of the way and was trying to stay high, but again, this isn't Talladega, Daytona. You can't run that high, because when you do so, if you don't turn in quick enough through one of those little kinks in the tri-oval, if you will, quad oval rather, that's what's going to happen. And you see once he gets up, he's trying to get down, he just can't, and when he hits that outside wall, it shoots him down the track into Navarro. That turns the 44 up. Huge hit into the outside wall for Navarro as he keeps it up, and then there you saw there was a checkup on the bottom. I don't know how Logan York managed to miss this one. And then Jared Haynes, he had to duck low, tried to check up, and as a result looked like he got a little out of shape, got loose. David Sheets ran into the back of him, and so that gave a little bit of damage to both of those cars, but boy, just a really, really unfortunate break there. And Navarro, again, his night will come to an end. Mondell, not sure that's going to probably potentially bring his night to an end as well. I couldn't tell just how much damage he had, but up front now, it seems like that has kind of cooled everybody's anxiousness to race, if you will, as we are single file, at least up through your top 5 at the moment. Matthew Baker leads here at Atlanta. Garrett Maines second, Jeff Merck in third, J.R. Miller back in fourth, Logan York fifth. And then separated is now what is formed up as this second group. Matt Lee in 6th, Ken McCullough Jr. 7th, Jared Hayes back in 8th with Michael Triscale 9th, and Trevor Ozernoff rounding out your top 10. So now we're at a point here, Dawson, where if this thing goes green, I'm looking here at Jeff Merck, who sits in 3rd. They're 3.5 seconds ahead of the leaders, that second pack. So if these guys, which are the leaders, can stay organized, they could pull away here and potentially make this a 3-man race in which they'd all be guaranteed money and be able to just battle it out for the win.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. They just want to stay in line here. They are still picking up time. I thought maybe they were going to die to pit road right there. They don't. They stay on the racetrack, and They are still putting time on that second group who comes to pit road. Matt Lee, Kenny McCullough out of the trouble, and now the yellow flag is out.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what this was for here. We're going to find out as you said, pit stops were just getting ready to go underway. Matt Lee, I saw get in the grass. I didn't think that was what brought out the caution, though. And Lee in the 04 looking for damage here. Looks like there's a bit on the left side, but I wonder if that's from earlier. I don't see anything on the right side. Yeah, really not too sure what brought this out, so we'll have to go back and find out the old-fashioned way. But up front, Matthew Baker is being scored as your leader when the caution came out. Kind of a win-lose scenario there, Dawson. The losing part is the fact that I think this was going to be a walkaway for these three if we stayed green. But, you know, the better side of it now is, of course, that they get to pit under caution, so they shouldn't have to worry about, well, I guess it's going to depend in terms of strategy here. We'll have to see how this thing pans out before we say any more on it. But as you see him bringing it down to the pits now, this isn't quite going to be the final pit stop of the night. At least I don't believe they can make it the rest of the way. It'll certainly be close, those. Now we go back and try to figure out exactly what brought out this caution here, as going up first here to Matt Lee. That was the first car that at least caught my eye to a degree. And, oh, yeah, the 04 does get turned around here coming to the entry of the pits by Ken McCullough Jr., but I mean, he saves it here. He straightens it out pretty much right away as Ken McCullough Jr. dives down to the pits as well. I mean, boy, surely that wasn't what brought out the caution, right?
That's the only incident on the speedway. So, I mean, that's the only thing I can think would have brought out the caution. I agree. It seems a little bit extreme for a yellow flag, but nonetheless, I mean, it's the only incident on the racetrack.
Man, it's definitely probably going to upset the guys up front a little bit more, as it was a phenomenal save by Lee, by the way. And, you know, this is just another one of those cases for Matt Lee here where you're trying to get down to the pits, and the communication, it depends a lot on, you know, have you told the guy behind you that you're planning on pitting? If you do, you're probably okay to stay up on the racetrack. But if you forget here, you got to get down. Well, I'll tell you what might have hurt him there, Dawson. Boy, he was catching Mark Vondel with a huge head of steam, and I think he realized that when he was getting ready to turn down to slow up, he was going to run into the back of Mark Vondel. So as a result, he still had to check up to get down to pit road speed, but had to stay on the track. And then Ken McCullough Jr., who, not sure, you know, I assume he was planning on staying out. Not really sure here. You saw fire out of the pipes after he got into him. And then, of course, he did dive down to the pits after the contact ensued. But I just think that's kind of one of those racing deals. But again, I mean, when Lee gets spun, he's already spun below the apron. And it looks to me like, you know, he saves it with really no issue here. Nobody else gets involved. Everybody else gets by just fine. So I'm really curious here. I'm pretty sure that was an iRacing thrown caution. And the reason that I find that so interesting is, you know, iRacing all the time is not throwing cautions for a lot of the big wrecks. I mean, we've already seen a couple here tonight, Dawson, that haven't been cautions that certainly could have been and maybe even should have been, but not that, or excuse me, but that one right there was. So, unfortunate break for some guys, good break for others. And now we'll see how this is going to shape things up, as up front, Matthew Baker is still being scored as your leader, Garrett Main second, and Jeff Merkin third. So it looks like that caution did allow them to maintain track position while topping off on fuel and tires. So get ready for the restart. It is Michael Triscaro and Matt Lee rounding out your top five.
It's going to be really interesting here to see if these guys further back can catch the pace car. I know J.R. Miller, Logan York's still on the move trying to get to the pace car. Looks like they will get there, but it was going to be awfully close. A lot of the guys who are laps down, though, not going to be quite as lucky. They're going to be stuck well behind the lead group here as we go back under the green flag. So tough break for some of those guys as they try to get their race back, you know, get back in this race, Eshelman and Maines especially. Nonetheless, here we go. It'll be 32 laps to go when we go back under the green flag right here in the restart zone. Green flag is in the air. We are back underway on lap 59. It was an awfully late jump, kind of awkward start for both lanes, but nonetheless, everybody is off and running. Bottom lane's got more help. Matthew Baker the lead in turn one.
And so now what we basically have here, Dawson, is almost a repeat of exactly what we saw with stage one, just a couple laps longer. And the reason I bring that up is because that means we will have one more pit stop. Got to wonder, how does that influence the aggression level that we see as Michael Triscaro jumps down and everybody bailing on Garrett Maines on the outside all by himself. While they're on fresh tires, he might be able to make something happen, but doesn't look like it. He continues to fall as he's hoping that somebody will jump out. Nobody does, and it's Matthew Baker who leads the first lap back under green. Now Christopher McCullough will jump up. Matt Lee maybe thinking about doing the same. And I tell you what, Dawson, with what we've seen here tonight and guys getting separated from that lead pack, I almost think that you need to be super aggressive here, even knowing that we have a pit stop left, because you get shuffled back, slight checkup, anything, as we've seen tonight, is certainly a recipe for losing this pack.
You need to keep the track position. You need to keep your spot and keep the draft. You got to be aggressive right here. I agree. I think it's the only strategy that's going to keep you in the race. So if you're a guy further back, if you're a Trevor Osborne, the JR Miller, or Logan York, you got to at least keep tabs on the field. That's what they're doing right now. You got to be maybe a little bit closer. Just stay aggressive, stay on your toes, and keep the leaders honest. I think it's going to be the only way you find yourself in this race if it goes to this last pit stop under green, which is exactly what those guys are starting to do. They're starting to figure it out back there in that what's becoming a second group. There's already a gap between Garrett Maines and Jared Haynes. I think the field might realize they need to get their pace up if they want to get back to these leaders.
Christopher McCullough and Garrett Maines have been working together there for a couple laps, but Garrett seemed like he wanted no more of it. But now he's jumped down, and it looks like he's almost a little indecisive here, Dawson. I think he wants to go, but he's waiting to make sure that he's got a run before he does so. Doesn't want to wait too long, though, here, because a couple of the PGR eSports boys, they've gotten lined up. Looks like Mike Davenport and JR Miller, who, by the way, just last night, of course, brought home a third-place finish in the Little Guys Series. We'll get to see him in the championship race. Mike Davenport, though, stuck on the outside as now his teammate's going to bail and drop low. And so Garrett Maines will stay tucked in line as well. Still just Christopher McCullough on the outside. Now, with the way this sets itself up, Dawson, I know we have a pit stop, but on that pit stop, not expecting any tires. So I think that as much as it's important here to stay aggressive, to keep tabs on the pack, as you noted, I think at the same time it's really important to try to save as much tire as possible, because you might need to have that little bit of extra edge on tire if you want a chance to win this race after that final pit stop.
Yeah, I completely agree. And there's a way you can do that in this car. It rewards you for saving tire, yes, but there's a lot of different ways you can do that. You can brake tap. Going in the corner, you can tap the brakes, back up the corner. If you have a little bit of a gap behind you, that helps you rotate the corner, save some tire, and keep your equipment fresher for later on in the race. You can just lift out, play a really conservative strategy. That's what probably Logan York, Trevor Osborne, guys like that are doing. 7th, 8th in line, not much they're racing for right now, so they're able to save a little bit more. And there's just varying levels that you can decide to go in this car. Now, does it reward you for saving a lot harder? Yeah, it does. But you can still save while being just that slightest bit aggressive to keep your track position. That's kind of what Matt Lee, Garrett Maines, and guys like that are doing right now.
Yeah, Andrew Navarro, I think, was probably the king of it earlier, but unfortunately, we saw his race come to an end after contact there with Mark Vondel. Almost back to 2x2 up front as I think Matt Lee's thinking about jumping out there as well. He saw Garrett Maines go, but he's going to wait just a little bit too long. The 04 no longer going to have that position to slot up in line as he slides up, though, off of turn number 4. Almost some contact as they go door to door. Now Garrett Maines with a huge shove to the 94 down the front stretch. He's trying everything to get Christopher McCullough clear, but one thing that I don't think we'll see any of tonight, Dawson, I just don't see any way it would work, would be pushing in the corners. Now, it is more so a race here to see who can push the soonest off the corner. But, man, you get a guy just a little bit too early, and it could potentially bring an end to your 9 and theirs if it causes a big wreck.
Yeah, notably, Christopher McCullough is actually a lap down here under green, so not a lead lap car. In fact, I think he might be 2 laps down. No, he's showing tail end of 1 lap down, so he's 2 laps down. He almost gets into leader Matthew Baker. Goodness, that was close. McCullough and Garrett Maines have been really side drafting hard, and while I understand what they're trying to do, it is awfully dangerous to be doing it at this racetrack with the amount of grip they have, the amount of tires that go away after a few laps. That was dangerous right there, but guys are following their lead. Here comes Mike Davenport in the 55, but here's a note on him. He's also a lap down. So several guys multiple laps down here at the front, kind of jumbling up the running order as the field goes by Brock Westmoreland.
And they look like they were considering 3 wide there for a moment. But, yeah, I mean, Christopher McCullough being 2 laps down, he knows that really his only shot with 23 to go here is going to be 1 lap down at the time of caution. That's why he's fighting so hard for it. And as you know, Mike Davenport, a couple others. Oh, Davenport was not clear. Oh, he's going to have to save this one. He's got to get back up on track, trying to slide up. Looks like everybody gives him plenty of room. Boy, one of the lappers there just trying anything to get tucked in line. Davenport 2 laps down as well, racing Christopher McCullough. And, man, Logan York, that was a close moment between those two. Good save, though, by Davenport. And now, yet again, that'll cause a bit of separation. These guys are going to have to get grouped up here before we get to this final stop. However, that pit window's open now, and I think the pay window's going to be open here soon as well, Dawson. When do you bring it down?
I don't know, because of the tire difference. I almost would rather split the run in half. I think that's probably the best way to both, manage out your tires while also, not seeing too much fall off. I think you're just going to see too much long run fall off if you decide to run it out. And the same problem if you decide to come right now. You'd see too much long run fall off by the end of the race. I think you'd lose too much time. You split it in the middle. You kind of take away that last few laps of fall off that you get if you stay out an extra few laps or if you pit really early. So I would split the run in half. That would make us, let's see, that would pit them with what? About 19 laps to go, 20 laps to go. So in a couple laps probably is when I would pit.
Well, I got a bold strategy in mind, and I'm curious if anybody maybe not having the day they wanted would be willing to try here, Dawson. What if you're further back, you go in here for the final stop, you take 4 tires, and we get a late caution? I mean, then you're in the catbird seat, I would assume. But, man, if we don't get that late caution, of course, that strategy is going to probably take you out of any chance at getting money for the race. So I don't know if it's the best strategy, but certainly another strategy that's on the table, something we maybe wouldn't see at Talladega or Daytona. We'll see if anybody further back or maybe not on the lead lap decides to give it a shot. But right now up front, Christopher McCullough still fighting hard to try to get clear here of Matthew Baker. Garrett Maines lights the cause, trying to get himself in position in the process. And right now, Matthew Baker, Jeff Merck for NBG doing a great job. Matt Lee as well, along with Michael Triscaro, who's working with NBG tonight. Logan York just behind them. 19 coming to 18 laps to go here off of turn number 4.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that, honestly, and you really don't lose a ton of time. Now, you lose enough it would probably take you out of contention if the race stays green, you're right, but if you do take 4 tires, I almost wonder, if these guys up front, if they decide to run it long, which to me it looks like they have no indication of wanting to come to pit road anytime soon, if they want to run it down to the single digits. I mean, if you came to pit road a few laps before they did and took tires, I almost wonder, with the amount of fall off we've seen tonight, if you can run those guys back down on fresh tires. I'm curious to see if anybody tries to come get tires with like 10 laps to go and just sees if they can run down the leaders on fresher rubber.
I feel like if you had a couple drafting partners, it's certainly a valuable option, but man, if you're by yourself, I just don't know if it's quite enough with a track that's this draft heavy. But I mean, how about the racing we have seen so far here tonight? There were a lot of questions coming into tonight on how clean would it be based off what we saw with the trucks, of course, last season. But, I mean, so far, what have we had? 2 cautions, and one of them shouldn't even really pin a caution. So hats off to everybody here tonight. I know we still got to get through the finish, which tends to get chaotic, but definitely Atlanta, for me at least, checked all the boxes so far tonight. Definitely excited that we're going to be coming back here one more time before the season's over.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so excited. I love this place. Like I said, this racing has been so much fun because it's so different. We're so used to relying only on drafting, relying only on the cars in each line and how many drafted partners you have. Here, you have to deal with that, yes, but you can do a lot more with 1 or 2 other cars if you just know how to work the racetrack, if you know how to save some tire, if you know how to really work the gas pedal and drive the car, wheel the race car. It's an element that we don't have enough of, in my opinion, and it really provides for some fun and interesting and different racing. That's what we got tonight. Single file along the bottom side of the racetrack. Either that means pit stops are coming or these guys have decided we're just going to ride out the rest of the run until they happen.
Yeah, really not sure which option they're going with, as Matt Lee actually fades back a little bit right there. Garrett Maines giving some gap. They might be coming right here, Dawson. Everybody looks like they're fading. Nope, nobody brings it down. But yeah, very interesting to see that they're starting to get spaced out here by a pretty decent margin. Now, there is a couple of lappers they're going to be coming up on here. Jason Maines in the 1 car, followed by Mike Davenport in the 55. And all this gap is going to potentially help out on pit stops. But boy, you talk about how tricky it was. There's a reason in real life that they, of course, have that pit entry in turn number 3. These cars aren't meant to go from whatever it is, 180 miles an hour, down to about 45 in the span of half a turn. That's what these guys are all going to have to try for this final pit stop. Still no strategy call, Dawson. Nobody trying to go in early just yet. And the longest they can probably go is, if I had to guess, maybe, I know you said down to single digits, and I'm thinking probably, what, about 6, I'm going to say somewhere 8 to 5 laps to go.
Yeah, I mean, that would be the absolute longest. I figure with about 10, if you wanted to try the 4-tire strategy, I figure if you want to come in lap 10, that'd probably be the best way to do it. If you wanted to try to run guys down on newer tires that aren't going to take tires with 5 laps to go, you can at least give it a shot with 10. So that's in about 3 laps from now. If you'll notice, I picked this up last time by the start-finish line. Look at Matt Lee. Watch him go up a lane on both straightaways. He'll do it again on the backstretch here, I think, too, as long as JR Miller is far enough back from him. He's going up a lane and arcing the car down into the corner. Watch him. So he's up in the middle. He's up along the dash now. Actually, JR gets too close to him. See if he does it again. Right there. Up half a lane. He's able to turn the car down the racetrack. That gives him a little bit of, number one, grip, and number two, clean air off the back of Garrett Maines' car. He's not getting the wake as much in these cars, and that's a big problem, especially on old tires. Watch him again. He'll do it right here, top to bottom, drives through the corner. It gives him a lot more rotation through the center of the corner. And at least figured something out on that part.
Yeah, it helps the car turn better, and also it's kind of evening that wear out, because again, remember, these cars at this track have a tendency to kind of swing towards the tighter side of the spectrum as the run goes on, but the more you arc that corner, the more you start to wear those rear tires out. Again, if you can get a little bit more even wear, or honestly, even maybe have the back end just slightly looser than the front end here, Dawson, at the end of a run, that could pay dividends if everybody else is tight. But yeah, I agree. Taking note right now of what Matt Lee's doing. We'll see how well it pays off for him at the end of this race. But we have now hit 10 laps to go. Expecting pit stops any time here between now and the next handful of laps. Be interesting to see if everybody all tries to come down at once, or if they kind of try to spread this thing out a little bit. But boy, this is going to get really, really dicey. Watch for the big checkups on the bottom. Do we see anybody coming this time? We do not. Well, I don't know, Dawson. They're running really close together. I don't know how I feel about how this final stop's going to go.
Well, Jared Haynes, the only lead lap car to come to pit road that time by. He got stuck behind Stephen Harper, who spun it on the entry. Tough break for him. He does become the first car to come to pit road, though. So now, does that force the hand of some of the leaders? I'd imagine it does not. I mean, if you're the guys up front, you're going to probably run this tank entirely out. But if you're Logan York, Trevor Osbornoth, Kenny McCullough, Michael Triscaro.
Oh, hold on, here we go.
And there you go.
One around. Oh, huge hit on the outside wall. Jason Maines and JR Miller trying to go to the pits. Man, I was worried it wasn't going to work out, and looks like that is exactly what happens, and all of a sudden throw the pit strategy out the window. We are going to be heading either into overtime or to a sprint to the finish here as JR Miller rolling here. I don't even hear any power coming out of that car yet. He's done for the night, so this will end JR Miller's chances of capturing a win here tonight at Atlanta. Jason Maines, who wasn't on the lead lap at the time, but was just hoping, kind of riding around, that something would work out, and just doesn't quite happen here. So JR checks up pretty early now. Him and Michael Triscaro usually teammates, but not tonight. And you see JR is trying to check up here. Logan jumps to the outside. Well, boy, this is kind of interesting here in of itself. And I'll tell you what, Dawson, I'm going to watch this first before I say it, but I wonder here if JR called it out, and as Triscaro tried to, or maybe initially got ready to jump up, he saw Logan jump and then felt like he couldn't go higher. Did he just miss the message altogether? I mean, I'm not really sure. I mean, you can see there, it just certainly looks like, you know, a miscommunication between JR Miller and Michael Triscaro. Of JR was pitting and doesn't look like Michael Triscaro was. And, you know, that's why we talk about, you got to, if the guys behind you don't know, you got to get down to the apron. But, I mean, I don't know. I hear a lot of lifting there out of Michael Triscaro. I'm not really sure. I'm not sure.
I don't know. I watched it back a few times too. I'm not really sure. Just some kind of miscommunication. Something went wrong there, and obviously with the amount of space, the lack of space that is, that you have at this racetrack, it just doesn't work when you're trying to make those split-second decisions. Unfortunately, right there comes back to bite. Michael Triscaro and JR Miller especially, and Jason Maines, innocent bystander in that one. I mean, his night's going to end by an incident that completely did not involve him.
And it looks like these two were really the only two involved in this one, at least from every view we've got so far. But definitely JR Miller, man, he was having such a good run. You hate to see it go out that way, as Ken McCullough Jr., boy, couldn't tell, actually, that might have been David Sheets. But a really, really close call there involved as well. No, that was indeed Ken McCullough Jr. They were coming off the turn, and Jason Maines, you saw, committed to the top once JR started wrecking. And when he slides back up, there's just nowhere that Jason Maines has to go. Plows in to him. That's a huge hit for the 78 and the 1. And then the 78 turns down. Thought he was going to get into Christopher McCullough. You can see he's diving as far left as he can here, just hoping that 78 doesn't get down into his door. JR able to get it back towards the right for him and Jason make some more unavoidable contact. And the 78 was able to roll back to a halt on the front stretch, as did the 1 of Jason Maines. That'll bring the night to an end for both of those drivers as we get one more view here from the static cam. Man, that's a brutal, brutal hit for Jason Maines. And saw NASCAR Miller back out on track, of course, multiple laps down. But Man, oh man. Tell you what, Dawson, now this certainly makes things interesting. We got the one-to-go signal, so it's going to be 5 laps to go. Not quite an overtime, but boy, not too many laps more than one. As Navarro, by the way, he's back out on track as well on the outside wall. Interesting to see him make his way back out with the damage he had. Gonna wonder if he's just trying to help somebody else here to the finish, but nonetheless, Garrett versus Baker in row number 1. Trevor Oswald for KSR versus Jeff Merck for NBG in row number 2, and Ken McCullough Jr. About this, he's back in the mix after some trouble early on in the night, and just on his outside, Logan York, we've been talking about as well.
It's going to be interesting to see who makes the first bold move here. We've seen guys go 2 wide all night. We have really yet to see 3 wide, at least 3 wide that works. I'm curious to see who tries it first. I mean, you're obviously going to look at Logan York, Michael Triscaro, Matt Lee will be the 3 I'd look at to maybe make a third line, try to make something work. Other than that, it comes down to probably these 4 or 5 guys up front.
All right, here we go. Pace car makes the left turn onto the pits for hopefully the final time here tonight. Garrett Maines, Matthew Baker back into the Geico restart zone. Green flag in the air at Atlanta. 5 laps to go as Garrett Maines off to the races with a great restart. Looks like Trevor Oswald is going to be able to follow in suit as now Garrett actually chooses to jump up to the high side. Here we go. First time tonight that we're seeing a little bit of that lane changing. For now, Baker and Jeff Merck are going to stay settled, tucked in behind him, but you wonder at what point will they not let the one slide up and maybe try to jump out, split him 3 wide.
I don't know how long they give him here. He goes back to the bottom, so for now, going to just kind of try to work it out himself and just hope that they don't get a great run here off turn number 4. But now 3 of them are lined up in the outside. He's going to have to go back up there. He does. They start to look higher. Now they look lower. Baker took a look to the middle, but now has to just suffice to push Garrett. And all that does is allow the bottom line to surge. New leader, Trevor Oswald's been awfully quiet tonight, but he's flexing some muscle right now. He's awfully loud on the bottom of the racetrack. The 89, the 02, the 03 go to the lead. And look who is up 3 wide. Matt Lee and Michael Triscaro. Triscaro bails out, and now Lee's got no one to dance with up against the outside wall.
Oh man, Triscaro really loose through 3 and 4. Looks like he does hold on. Tell you what, I said that we wouldn't see any pushing through the corners, but I've certainly been seeing Baker trying it and actually giving it a couple taps, and it pays off as Logan York, Trevor Oswald don't quite get lined up right. That gets Garrett all but clear, just enough to slot down in front of the 89. But he's going to stay up for now. I got to believe the patience maybe starting to run out for the 5 and the 60. Jeff Merck still looking for his first win. Matthew Baker maybe looking for a second. But if they're working together with Garrett tonight, who knows? Maybe they stay lined up as they stand for now as the bottom now starts to dissipate with 2 laps to go.
It's not going to dissipate as long as Logan York's down there. They're trying everything they can to stay side by side with Garrett Maines, and they're doing a good job. Mad props to them on the bottom for now. And they're hoping that Matthew Baker and Jeff Merck take a look to the outside. They're hoping that they split Garrett Maines 3 wide, because all that's going to do is allow them to surge, stay in line, and pull forward, and eventually potentially go to victory lane in this race. Really tight on the door of the 89 was the one of Garrett Maines there in 3 and 4. And as they come off turn 4, they'll see the white flag this time by.
Matt Lee looking 3 wide, nothing doing just yet. He's going to try again here down into turn number 1. Looks like Christopher McCullough will try to make the move with him. Garrett Maines, Trevor Oswald still door to door. Logan York, Matthew Baker out of 2.
Oh, man, this is really tight racing down the backstretch. Both guys have done an incredible job of pushing, but it's all going to come down to who gets the better run off turn 4. So far, the bottom looks to be better. What does Maines have for him in 3 and 4?
Garrett side drafting for all he's worth. Oswald looking for his first win at Tuesday Night Thunder. Here we go, all the way down to the checkers. It's a drag race. It is going to go to, I believe, it was so close. Who gets it? It looks like it might have been Garrett Maines. Oh, man, Trevor Oswald had it all the way to the stripe, but that little bit of an offset push right at the last second, I think, may have lost it for him, Dawson.
Yeah, it's heartbreak for Trevor Oswald. I do believe that it will be Garrett Maines getting the win, which huge win for him, but, man, for Trevor Oswald, that's got to sting. I thought for sure they had it on the bottom, and he owed it all to Logan York. I thought they had the winning push, but Garrett Maines gets the job done at the line.
Well, for what it's worth here, I don't think this starts necessarily with just Logan. It looks like this starts potentially behind Logan. Well, it's close here. Logan's trying to get Trevor lined up for a good push, and looks like Logan gets a little bit of help maybe from Ken McCullough Jr. out back, and that gets him out of shape, and as it does, he gets Trevor Oswald out of shape, and boy, I tell you what here, I'm going to watch this back one more time slow. I got to be honest, I don't even know if he needs to push him right here, Dawson. It's close. But, man, if he just stays right there, doesn't get man, I'll tell you what, Logan York and Trevor Osnaugh, they're definitely going to be hoping that they could, or they're wishing rather, they could go back and try this one again, because I think this was definitely all the 89s to win here. And oh, it definitely was. If he doesn't get offset there, I mean, I think he's got it. And you see even at the line as he's sideways, he's still just barely, and I mean barely, gets edged out by Garrett. In fact, this margin of victory is so small, we're going to have to back this up and probably look at our official scoring to have an idea of just how close this was. I think it came down to 1,000, Dawson. I mean, look how close there. I can't even tell the difference from this view. There you go. You see it now. It looks like Garrett does squeak it out, but boy, just barely. What a finish here at Atlanta.
Yeah, 4/1000ths of a second, the official margin of victory on my scoring monitor here. So as close as it can get here at Atlanta. And I mean, I had to go look at the results too, because with just my eyes, I could not tell right there off of 4.
Looking at Garrett Maines did a little bit of celebrating as we were taking a look at the replay, and that will add his first win to the season here in Tuesday Night Thunder. So he should now also be locked in, assuming he makes enough races in addition to that. But here we go, looking at the rest of your results here on the night. Again, Garrett Maines was your winner here at Atlanta. Trevor Osnaugh, look at the margin of victory there officially. 0.004 of a second. The distance separating him and Garrett Maines at the checkered flag. Matthew Baker finishes in 3rd. Logan York in 4th. Ken McCullough Jr. in 5th. Jeff Merck 6th. Michael Triscaro back in 7th. Matt Lee 8th. Brock Westmoreland in 9th. And Jared Haynes, good finish, is able to round out the top 10.
Chris McCullough finishes 11th, Stephen Harper 12th, Tony Cox in 13th, David Drohan in 14th, Danny Eshelman 15th tonight with Mike Davenport 16th, David Sheets 17th, Jimmy Emos in 18th, J.R. Miller 19th, Jason Maines 20th, Nash Brambilla 21st, Andrew Navarro 22nd. We talked about the tough run for him tonight, the tough break he had with Mark Vondell, who finishes in 23rd, and rounding out the field tonight, Tucker McClendon in 24th.
All right, well, we're going to get your top 3 in here for interviews. Stick with us. We'll be right back at Atlanta. Back live at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Going to start first here tonight, interview-wise, with your 3rd place finisher, Matthew Baker. Matthew, this is Austin in the booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, what's up, man?
Well, you're able to out-push Logan York right there at the end to get Garrett Maines his first win of the season. But, man, oh, man, what a race it was. You bring home a podium. How you feeling right now?
Yeah, I feel like I came up short, honestly. Led a ton of laps, and felt like I was one of the dominant cars with Andrew and Garrett there. Just decided to take left sides there at the pit stop, put Garrett ahead of me, and then he went up to the second line. And I thought maybe I could push him clear, but we've been working together all race long. Just keeping each other up there. So I didn't want to hang him out on that restart. I'm looking back at it now, but I didn't want to hang back on him on that restart and take him 3 wide off the start. But I had Merck behind me. Maybe I should have went for it in hindsight, but just a bummer. But still happy with the 3rd place finish for sure.
Indeed. Well, I'll tell you what, this was the first time this season that we've been to Atlanta. Not the first time, though, in Tuesday Night Thunder in general, but definitely the cleanest race we saw tonight. How'd you feel about the action, and how you feeling about our return here later on this season?
It was good. I really wanted to get to the green flag stops. 2 critical moments, coming to the stage in. I'm going for the stage win, and the caution comes out, and then we're coming to the pit stops, and it's just going to be me, Garrett, and Merck, all on a different strategy than everyone else, and it's going to be a dogfight between probably us 3 and a couple more, and we just wrecked again at pit road. So the bummer we didn't get to it, but still a lot of fun racing up front. It sucks for Andrew. Andrew and Garrett were a lot of fun to battle. And I just love this track. After the Road to Pro win, it really boosted my confidence coming into this race. So a lot of fun for sure.
That confidence was certainly shown here tonight, again, with that 3rd place finish. So before we let you head out, is there anyone you want to thank or shout out?
Yeah, just thanks to Coasting Thunder, MBG Motorsports, Baker & Son Construction. Thanks to Nico for the wrap. Looks really good out here, and it's been getting me results. So go shout out to your boy Nico on Twitter if you want to go get a paint, and Martin Sports for all your sim equipment. And just thanks to Mike had a little bit of bad luck, and then Garrett and Andrew up front was a lot of fun to race against, and good run by Trevor there. Wasn't really up front for most of the race, and made the right call. No tires, jumped a lot of people on the pit cycle, jumped ahead of Merck, and that's really all she wrote. If I would have had Merck on the inside, we'd had a lot better chance to try and control to get one of us to win, but Garrett got it done, and Trevor and Logan really pushed well in the bottom lane. That was a great finish.
Certainly was. Well, thank you for talking to us. Again, congrats on the third place finish, and we'll see you out here next week.
Thanks, bro.
All right, and now that will bring us to your second place finisher here on the night. Dawson Wise stands by with Trevor Osbornoff.
Yeah, hey, Trev, it's the boys in the booth. You get a copy?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. How's it going?
Well, it's going well. Look, heartbreaking end for you. I'm sure you come up just a few inches short there, but nonetheless, great run, pretty quiet run, but you found yourself in the right spot at the right time. Is there anything you could have done differently on that last sequence right there to make it one spot better?
No, I don't think. If maybe I kind of exited it a little lower off the corner, maybe we might have been able to keep it straight. Logan, man, that dude, once he saw the gap, he came with me. He never let off, and I can't be anything but appreciative to him because these boys will drive right around you, and he stuck it with me, and we just got a little tangled up there on the bottom, and that's what did it. The little 4 1,000ths of a second, I think is what they said. Yeah. So there's nothing really much there. Racing the best guys on super speedway racing, matter of fact. So a little bittersweet, but it is what it is.
Well, first trip to Atlanta tonight here for Tuesday Night Thunder this season. In these Xfinity cars, it's a lot tougher, than what we said. It's a lot tougher than it may look to drive these cars. How was it out there racing, trying to save tires, trying to manage and having to wheel those things through some green flag pit stops?
I kind of took some inspiration from the official side when they went to Atlanta. I mean, either they were going to wreck it or not get on pit road, and that's pretty much what happened a lot of the times. So I just kind of bit my time. I rode around in the back, saved some fuel, saved some tires. I ended up on the caution before last, I ended up coming out like 12th or 10th. Took 4 tires. I was just talking to Garrett here a second ago, and he said everything he tried it didn't work. It's because I had those 4 tires. I just ended up cycling to the front, I think 3rd on that restart. And it just helped me in the end. So, hey, that's just kind of what happened here, man. I was hoping I would have got that R&R win. But hey, there'll be another time to do it.
Well, absolutely. Well, nonetheless, second is by no means, any kind of slouch. It's a great points night for you here tonight on a Tuesday night, and a really good payout as well for a Tuesday night. It's a string of momentum. I talked to you last night after the little guys race in that kind of wild finish. Tonight, another wild finish. Again, you're on the podium. So momentum for you personally. We've seen the momentum out of your guys' team. What is your mindset here going forward now that you're on a little bit of a run?
Hey, I'm hoping to talk to you guys more often. That's what I'm looking for. Basically, man, just kind of staying clean, staying out of trouble. That's just kind of where I want to be. I want to be up front most of the time, or I feel like, these guys are going to wreck it, just kind of ride in the back. But our team has been stepping up here lately. As you can see, our outcomes are showing. So I can't be anything but humble towards this this time that we're having right now. Like I said, I talked to you twice already. Hopefully I could talk to you Friday. Hopefully I can talk to you back Monday again, man. I'm just trying to keep this KSR train rolling, baby. So I just can't. I don't know, man. It's bittersweet. I'm not going to lie to you. It is very bittersweet right now, but it is what it is, brother.
Well, good run for you nonetheless here tonight. A second place finish in Atlanta. So before we let you go and celebrate, is anybody like to thank or shout out?
Hey, man, I got to thank all the boys at KSR. My parents said I never shout them out, so my mom and dad, my brother, appreciate y'all. Got to give a huge shout out to Logan York. It's Logan York, baby. Like, what else can I say? So appreciate you guys for the broadcast. Can't wait to watch it. I know it's going to be a hell of a broadcast. And thank Ron Morris for putting this race on.
Well, we appreciate you for talking to us for a second. Congrats on a second place finish. Go enjoy it. Go celebrate. And we will see you later on this week.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. And now that will bring us to your race winner here on the night. Gets the job done by just 4 thousandths of a second. It's Garrett Maines. Garrett, this is Austin in the booth. You got a copy?
Yes, sir.
Oh, man, you squeaked that one out there right at the end. Tell us a little bit about that short sprint that we had to the finish. You chose the outside. I thought for sure the momentum would be by far plenty, but, man, that came down to a drag race all the way to the finish.
Oh, it sure did. I really was not prepared for that to unfold the way it did, but I just got really fortunate to have Baker behind me. I mean, he was doing a phenomenal job pushing. I felt bad because I kind of cycled him and Merck back. They'd done really well all night long, and just, I hated to take Merck out of a pay position there. But yeah, I was hoping to get back down in front of Trevor. I just wanted to kind of, manage the runs, manage the temps for the first few laps of that sprint. Just didn't really work out that way. I could have maybe pixel cleared or cleared with some contact down the backstretch, but it was a risky move, and I elected to stay up top and never got the opportunity again. So I got extremely lucky coming off of turn 4 on the last lap, and I mean, 0.004 is the margin, and I think I got that in the last 2 feet.
Yeah, it was certainly a close one. Well, certainly a lot of things to be learned here tonight. Of course, first time this season in the Xfinity cars, and I know you've had a lot of experience not only on the Super Speedway scene, but of course in the Pro Series and the Coke Series and whatnot. So was there anything new that you maybe learned tonight from the money racing scene and our first time at a non-2.5 mile or greater track?
Dude, I learned that people on single ultra wides can't see. I will tell you, this is a bit of an experience. This is a really nice rig I got to drive. Paul has hooked me up with access to it, and I'm just not used to running on a single. It's kind of weird, like you just can't see out the sides as much, and running with the Formula wheel, which works for everything. I feel like but Super Speedway is just a little different, but it was good. I was able to make it happen. I mean, I'll tell you, you got to be a lot more aware in this situation. You got to know what's going on around you, because there's a much larger blind spot, but it was a good experience.
Good experience with a good ending for you tonight. So before we let you head out to celebrate in Victory Lane, is there anyone you want to thank or shout out?
Yeah, absolutely. Got to give a huge shout out to MCU Body, Linux, the guys at Ryko Performance for all of their support, and shout out to Paul for letting me use his rig again. That's big time lifesaver here, because I honestly forgot that I was running for points in this. But also a big thank you to Left Court Brothers and FGR XL for their support.
And thank you, of course, for talking to us. We appreciate it. Congrats on the win, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, sir.
All right, there you go, Garrett Maines, and that'll just about wrap up our coverage here tonight from Atlanta. But, man, Dawson, what a race it was. And, for the first time, and I feel like first time I've been saying this in quite a few weeks, it seems like, in general, all smiles throughout the field. So, from what I'm taking so far, it seems like not only us, but just about everybody enjoyed Atlanta here tonight.
I did. I mean, I harp on it every time we come here. Love this track. Love these cars. These cars provide such a different, unique style of racing in Atlanta that you have to, kind of merge super speedway tactics with mile-and-a-half tactics and saving tires and drafting and putting that all together. And Garrett gets the job done. And hey, for reference, I know he talked about the blind spot on ultra wide. Some of us don't even have ultra wide, so it can always get more difficult. But nonetheless, Garrett gets the job done tonight. Great run for him. Great run for Trevor Osrenoth, and really a fun race overall.
Certainly was. All right, well, that'll do it tonight for our coverage here of race number 3 for Tuesday Night Thunder at Atlanta. We'll be back again next week, back to a super speedway. Not sure if it was our first time going to Daytona next week or if it's back to Talladega. We'll have more on that here in the middle portions of the week. But thank you all so much for coming out. As always, I hope you enjoyed. That'll do it for me, Austin Green, and Dawson Wise here on PGR eSports. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you enjoyed. And until next time, have a good night.